president said, watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today, and he wasn't kidding.
What's your message to voters who may be concerned about the potential for rising gas prices?
Well, I think your gas prices, as soon as that's over, are going to come tumbling down along with everything else. I think you're going to see a very big decrease in the price of gasoline, gas, anything having to do with energy.
I think I have tremendous support on this. This is something that's been incredible. I have the best poll numbers I've ever had now.
Yeah.
And it's not because of this. I think we've just, the economy is great. It's a little bit of we take a little winding road for a little while, but we have to wipe out the evil. It's an evil curse. They're evil people. And hey, we wiped out their Navy. We wiped out their Air Force. We wiped out everything there is to wipe out.
This is the current stock market update for NIO Incorporated, stock ticker NIO. Before we begin with today's stock market analysis, if you find these educational materials to be helpful, please remember to click the like and subscribe buttons. Leave your thoughts below in the comments section so that other traders can find this information more easily on the platform. We are looking at the hourly time frame here. Each candle represents a full hour's trading period, and there have been several factors recently that in theory should have helped NIO share prices. We did see an earnings report last week where there was some evidence that there is a transition into profitability for NIO. We have also seen several breaks of short-term resistance levels, which typically leads to follow-through and share price movements in the upward direction. For example, here, roughly $5.43. A little bit of an additional break of resistance near around 580 here as well. And typically when that happens, you do tend to see some fairly forceful follow through in the upward direction. In addition to all of this, we have the situation in Iran, which has significantly influenced oil prices. I can just plot a Brent crude oil price here on this chart to see some of the recent rallies that have been seen in oil prices. They've been fairly significant. And intuitively, you would guess, if you had to make a guess about a situation like this, you would probably make the assumption that massively rising oil prices, possibly a situation where there is no end in sight for a major war in an oil-producing country. It could stand to reason that possibly, an electric vehicle company that a lot of people seem to think is the future would have the potential to rally in a situation like this. However, this really hasn't been the case. We've seen movements from about 440 into about 585 from these prior lows, and this is even after the recent earnings release. And there is also a fairly large harmonic pattern that is present on these medium-term timeframes. We're looking at the 4-hour price chart here, and as we can see, this purple or pink structure here does have an ultimate price target near those prior highs near $8.02. So there are obviously a lot of people that are suggesting that NIO stock prices or NIO share prices can see some significant rallies here near term. But the results so far have been fairly subdued, and that does suggest that I think that we could be topping out here somewhat soon. We could be looking at a bit of a false breakout of resistance, possibly near $5.85, and then possibly a reversal lower from here, because I think that eventually the market is going to come to the realization that a lot of these recent quote-unquote profits that we're seeing in the latest NIO earnings report were actually the result of cost-cutting measures rather than a significant advancement in quarterly sales figures. As a result, I think you're looking at a potential resistance area, upcoming resistance area near the prior neckline of a Head and Shoulders price pattern. Specifically, this would come into play near about $6.25 or so. So even if we do see a rally into that area, I would suspect that that's probably the upper end of the spectrum for this stock. And it would also give us the number 2 price target for that harmonic pattern that is currently forming here. So, that it could be a turning point in the negative direction. I'm sure Mr. P doesn't want to hear something like that because he only manages to cover one stock because he doesn't actually know anything about the stock market. And he's going to have a lot of explaining to do if NIO is not able to post some fairly significant rallies here relatively soon.